Hey crew, welcome back to another spraycasso tutorial. In today's tutorial, I want to take the time to explain to you guys some of the techniques that I've been doing, some of the techniques that I've created for the world of spray painting. Now, I have to do this because I know that in some of my latest videos, I'll skip a couple of segments on my video to save time, to save space on my camera, so that I'm able to produce an entire segmental video. But I'll go back and I'll say, like, on these trees, I added the dark and light technique. On this, I don't know, water, added the water tinting technique. To create the water, I used the liquify technique. And some people are like, Spray, you're the only one that uses terms for the spray paintings and for the techniques that you're using. So we don't understand, or we don't know, and we don't want to take the time to go back to all your videos and see what techniques you're talking about. So keep in mind, I'm going to be doing this with one hand. So we'll see how that goes. First technique. Okay. The first technique that was created in spray painting is the texture technique. Guys, what's the texture technique? Okay, the texture technique is very basic, very elementary, and it can be done with basically any color. And the way it works is that you use your light colors first. So I'm going to add a little bit of yellow, perhaps. You know what? No, we'll just stick with the basics. We'll do yellow and black. You can add another color, guys, but I don't want to get too deep into it. It's a long subject. Use a magazine sheet. All right? It's a magazine sheet. Remove the black. You remove it by tapping and removing. Look at that texture. And thus, the texture technique. Okay, if you're going to create a planet using that, very simple. To create planets, guys, you want to get some black to fade into your two colors. Then you want to put your stencil on top. Now, here's another question about planets. Every time I lift up the planet, there's a ring around there. Guys, that's because there is spray paint gunk on your stencils. So yes, when you remove it, it's going to remove paint. The crisper you can get it, see, like this one doesn't have that much. I want to use this one. You want to get a little bit of that black you faded into. Just like that. Okay. Now we're going to cover this with black. All the way around the stencil, guys. You want your planet to be round, so you have to go around the planet. All right. I'm going to show you another technique. So far, texture technique. With space paintings, I'll do a nebula technique. You can do this with various colors, but I'm going to use green. Okay, once again, I'm going to go back, make sure that my planet's nice and round, and then I'm going to fade black into it. I don't want to completely cover the nebula, but I do want to fade into it. See that? Okay, so now you've learned the nebula technique. You can do this with various space colors, such as blue, red, green, maybe even orange. Now we're going to be talking about the star technique. Star technique, guys, very simple. Aim 45-degree angle away from your canvas. Very gently. Let it sputter. This may take a few tries. Alright, just like that. And you've created stars. Very simple, very basic technique. Yet a lot of people have a tendency to overcomplicate it. So what they'll do, if they can't sputter it, they'll put paint on their hands and then they'll do this. The only problem with that is that you'll create a line of stars rather than random different sizes of stars throughout your whole universe. So guys, when removing the planet, don't shake it, don't move it, don't, just lift it up. It's that simple. You just lift it up. Now, there is a small ring around it. Guys, so what? You'd be amazed how many emails I get on that. But Spray, there's a ring around my planet. Good. All right. With that being said, that technique is covered. Let's talk about the technique that I created, which I call the spray on spray technique. That's the technique that got us away from space paintings. Not that there was anything wrong with space paintings, but guys, I wanted to improve the amount of paintings that we could do with spray paint. I didn't want it to be just limited to space paintings. So when I created this technique, I know there's a lot of people out there that didn't believe it was done with spray paints. But look at us now. Now we can do realistic looking. Oh God, I have to clean this. You know, I hate these fat caps. I really, truly do. All right, here we go. The first time that I used this technique was to create, yep, a sunflower. Now let's use a little bit of brown. And we'll try and hit that in the middle. I would use orange before using the brown, guys, but I am out of orange. So now then, we're going to use our neutral color. Now remember that neutral colors, there's only two in spray painting, and that is gloss black, gloss white. Meaning that you can add those colors and then add 3 colors on top without having to worry about the mixture underneath. In this case, we're going to be using our gloss white. You know what? We can even add, just to show you guys, a little bit of green. Alright, here we go. Now that we have our neutral color on top, you can add other colors to create a background. In this case, I'm going to use blue. And it's just going to be a light texture blue. Now let me show you what happens when you combine that with red. Those two, being that they're not neutral colors, they actually combine, and you will actually get a purple hint throughout your painting. See that? That's alright. I like the combination. I also like the fact you can add a little bit more or a little less paint so that it doesn't soak through. But for this purpose, I want you guys to see completely how it works. So I don't mind if the green is actually showing. The spraycasso tool, guys, was created because I wanted to replace the use of razor blades, is what we used to manipulate the paint. Now we just use the spraycasso tool. Alright. Now check this out. You are able now to create the effect of a plant. Look at that. Okay, but that's not what I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you the spray on spray technique and how it works. See that? Alright. Now to create a sunflower, guys, it's very simple. You just have to keep in mind which direction the petals flow. Or you can just, in this case, guys, I would actually turn the spray painting, but okay, so basically, let's recap what the spray on spray technique is. The spray on spray technique is adding the colors to whatever it is that you want to create first, then adding a neutral color, blending in your background colors, in this case it was red and blue, and then creating the product that you wanted to create. Now, this technique actually gets a little more complicated as we go through because we start adding different colors. But overall, this is the basic technique, the spray on spray technique. You can create other landscapes rather than just sunflowers. Alright, let's talk about, you know what? I want to give you a quick example of the spray on spray technique by creating a earthbound scenery. Now the reason I'm going to do that is because there's also a couple of techniques there that I want to show you guys. And that is actually a little too much brown. You want to add a little less than that. But for this purpose, it's okay. A little bit of black, a little bit of brown. See that? Not too complicated. Then you want to add your neutral color on top. Yes, on top of everything. Cover it. I'm going to create a quick background by creating the spray on sky. And that's just using one color, real quick, blast through. You've created a sky. With the spraycasso tool, you very gently just go up and start to mix the trees that you have by going up and down. Okay, this will give you a very realistic bark effect. Well, more realistic than And some of the spray painters out there that I've seen that do this. Come on, guys. No. Okay. So you want to create your texture. And let's do that over here too. And the way you do that, guys, is rather than scratching the paint, you want to mix it with itself. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but to me, a tree that has bark effect like that is a little more realistic than that, which is just a plain white scratch. And I'm definitely against scratching. There's a lot of scratching techniques that you do when you're a beginner, such as space paintings, to create rough terrain. But if you want to progress, you want to kind of leave that era behind you, and which is also called the scratching technique. And we'll get into that one as well. Okay, so you get the gist of what I'm trying to tell you. Very realistic looking trees. Spend the time, go up and down a few times. Make them look a little more realistic than just white, guys. All right. Now, I also added some black here on these layers below, right? You remember that? Well, you want to use a magazine sheet to scratch that off. Okay, I've waited a little too long. Let me see if I can find the clear coat. Nope, I can't find the clear coat. Is that it? Forget it. We'll do that. You can still see some right here. And it's kind of like the texture technique, guys. I'm going to have to redo it because I waited too long. Explaining sometimes kills me. And I've gotten a lot of emails of people telling me, oh, you explain too much. Well, it's better to explain too much than not enough. Okay. It's very similar to the texture technique, right? There we go, look at that. So using techniques that you've already learned can help you achieve more realistic looking terrains. Now, so far you've created some trees, a sky. To create the water, we use the liquefy technique. There are several ways of creating water, but I'm going to use the liquefy technique. Liquefy technique is the most realistic. It uses white and it uses blue. It's right here. Okay, so use that on top of that. And you know, guys, it always blows me away. I've had so many wonderful emails, people telling me your water is so realistic. How do you do it? Guys, I've done this in all my videos. Well, in most of them. Let me show you one more time. Use a magazine sheet, fold it in the shape of a U. Like that. You don't want it sharp. And that's actually might be a little too much for what I need. But you fold it. And you start going back and forth. Back and forth. Now, take a look at the realism of this water as I'm creating it. Okay. You can also create waves using this technique. Alright, so that's the liquefy technique, guys. It's basically not blending, but mixing the water together to get that really realistic looking waves. You can also make your water very rough, like there's a lot of rocks, by going back and forth really rapidly. Okay, so you get that technique, right? Let's talk about the technique that I've used in some of my paintings that I call the fading technique. Usually to do that is you use some white. You have to select a light source and you fade very gently. You start here with your light source and then you start backing away, fading those trees into the background. See that? So it fades them. It gives it the effect that there's distance. So now you've created depth. If you want to create another layer of trees, you use the spraycasso funnel. So now we're intermixing techniques. We went from the spray-on-spray technique to create the trees, to a fading technique to fade the trees, to a texture technique to create the ground, to the liquefy technique to create the water. Now with the spraycasso funnel, we're going to create a layer, a silhouette layer. And it's silhouette because it's black, right? I mean, there's no other colors to it, just like a silhouette. Right, so there you go. You've created a silhouette technique, a silhouette layer. I mean, using the silhouette technique. All right, very simple stuff, guys. So hopefully this helps you guys in understanding some of the terminology that I use when I'm creating a spray paint. Now, I also want to talk to you guys about the light and dark technique. Usually, the way the light and dark technique works, you have to have a straight edge. Let me see if I can find one. Whether it be a flexible straight edge or just a normal straight edge. And you put this here, depending on the light source. So if this is the light source, then you want to put your light source right here and your dark in the back. I'm going to do it with one of these trees. Now keep in mind, guys, I won't be able to talk because I'm holding the phone with my chin. We'll see how that works. All right, give me a second. Okay, did you guys get that? I was able to create a straight line there. Now you want to do the same. It's going to be a little harder for me to do this, but oh, yeah, I'll do it on this other side. Okay, here we go one more time. Alright, now look at the way just two quick little sprays on this tree added realism to it. Using the bark technique and the light and dark technique on top. Look at that. Now, even though you can do that to these white plain trees that other spray painters are teaching you to do, well, you'll just create a cylindrical white tube of a sort coming out in this earthbound scenery that you're using. So keep that in mind, guys. Spend the time, use the right techniques to create the right effect. All right, so imagine if I would have done that to maybe another tree over there, this one, this one, this one. Now you just added depth and 3D look to your painting. And this is how fast I did that. All right, so the more complicated your paintings get is based on the amount of techniques that you input into them. So you can go from that to that. And from here, guys, you can create anything with the spray on spray. You can start working on animal fur, people faces, all sorts of different stuff. All right, so far we've talked about the texture technique, the nebula, the star technique, the spray on spray technique, which can be very versatile in getting you out of this era. Or you can combine the two and create a nice little space scenery with a landscape to it. Okay, let's see, what else can we talk about? I've talked about the light and dark technique, the silhouette technique, the liquefy technique. Oh, you know what? Another technique I haven't talked about is a technique that talks about water tinting, which I use a lot. Now, how does the water tinting work? When doing the water tinting, you have to keep in mind the colors of the sky as well. In this case, I will add a little bit of red to the sky background, just so you guys can get the gesture of what I'm talking about, right? And the water is going to have to reflect those colors. So if I have a little bit of red and yellow, oh gosh, this yellow is kicking my butt. No, darn, we're not going to use yellow. Let's use green. All right, just to get the point across. So if you have a little bit of red and green as your sky colors, you want the water to reflect those colors as well. The way you use that is with the straight edge. Once again, guys, I'm not going to be able to talk while I do this, so pay attention as I reflect the colors of the sky into the water using the water tinting technique. Okay, so you see that? You see how I reflected the colors that we used below? And the water no longer looks just blue. There is a tint of red. I actually sprayed a little more green than I wanted to here. It's correctable if you were to do this in an actual painting, but I'm not going to correct it on this one. So you just give the tint of the colors that you used above, thus calling it the water technique. And you can use different colors such as yellow, oranges to reflect the sunset at sunrise. If you're creating a sci-fi painting, definitely colors that you want to use. All right, let's talk about, oh, you know what? Let's talk about brushes. I know that there's a lot of people that use these kind of brushes to creating trees. I personally don't use these brushes. I've experimented with them. You have to experiment with these tools in order to come up with a valid opinion. So you can say, well, I've been spray painting for, gosh, since 97, 98, whatever, for a long time. And I've tried everything. I've tried a cloth, I've tried a sock, I've tried that, and finally the sea sponge, which is my tool of preference to creating trees. Now, bear with me, guys, as I go into the other room and grab a sea sponge and a foam brush. All right. So as I've mentioned before, see, guys, it's not that I don't have the stuff. No, I've got it. I just know where to use and where not to use the right tools. So if I want to create trees, don't use these. Don't. Pine trees, I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't. I'll show you a quick example here. All right. A little pine tree using this brush. Now it's a little bit broader than I wanted to. Oh, you know what? I have one right here that's not as broad. Right here. Different sizes. I use these to create different effects. Well, I'll show you later. Let's move these out of the way. Now, I'm going to add a little bit of, you use green for this technique, or dark green. That, a little bit of black. I also mix my own colors, guys. So if I want dark green, I just mix it with black. I don't go out and get, different colors. Only because I know that not everybody in the world has access to all the variety of colors that we have. So I use the basic ones and kind of teach people how to blend their own colors together. Let's create. First of all, they go like this, and they start off like that, and then they start expanding as the tree goes down. Now, I know there's other people out there that can probably do this little presentation with the trees, make them look a little bit better than what I'm doing, but basically that's the overall gesture. I mean, it looks very flat, very blah, 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 blah. Don't like it. Don't like it. And when people ask me to be honest and they show me paintings like that, I say, I spent so many years painting, and I can do so much better than that. Take my opinion. For whatever it's worth, take the experience, the years that I've spent doing this, because I too have experimented with it, and I can tell you that I have a better technique to create more realistic looking trees. If you want to get stuck in the era of beginner level, that's fine. But if you want to experiment out of that, little sea sponge, and I would actually tear this a little bit further down, but since I can't really, I can call. Okay. Oof, I'm getting spray paint everywhere. Wish I could use both hands. Okay, we start like this. And look at that. I mean, and you can get more realistic any day of the week, guys. Any day of the week. Okay, enough of that. Let's just say that's a versus technique, and let your eyes be the judge of that. What else can we talk about? Different forms. Oh, let me show you another technique that I've used a lot. Oh, I can't. I don't have my clear coat. Okay, we'll talk about another one. Let's talk about a nice little effect that I use to create the inner part of the sunflowers. Now, this is a technique that I've used over the years, and it's worked really good for me. We're going to be using Rust-Oleum Brown. You just want to add a little bit of brown. And you're going to want to cover that with a very light layer of your neutral white color. Gloss white, guys. They're just not going to get an email about what's your neutral white color. Gloss white. We're going to let that sit for a little bit. And you're going to see that there's going to begin a small texturizing technique begin to happen. See that? The longer you leave it, the bigger it'll get. And that will give you some really awesome looking effects in the inner part of your sunflowers. Alright, so that's just something that I've learned over the years with the mixture of different brands of spray paints, different chemicals. Let's see, what else can we talk about? Let's talk about, we've talked about the water. Oh, let me show you another water technique. It's kind of like the liquefy technique, but it's just the basic water. And you add some white, you add some blue, and usually with your own finger, latex glove or something, you smear this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And if you want to give it the effect of depth, you want to add a little bit of black and blend into it. And thus giving you the effect that it goes from, and a lot of people like to add two rains back here. So it goes from a really far distant dark blue almost to a very light blue here at the bottom. Again, if you have access to different colors, then you don't have to do this. You can add a dark blue, light blue, white, and then kind of mix them all together. You can also do this with green and blue. Watch, I'll show you. Okay. And you just start mixing them back and forth, back and forth. And this is the technique that most people use when creating beach-like sceneries. Right? Because it gives you the effect of various colors. And there's various waters out there that do go from a light blue to a light green, vice versa. And if you add white to it, you can keep doing this technique, see? You can also get the effect of reflections and water movement. So it's pretty good. It almost looks like a technique out of oil technique, you know, where they use a lot of, to create water like this. All right. With all these techniques, guys, you can create master level paintings any day of the week. Look at that. Okay, now imagine a sunflower coming out throughout here with the petals this way. And with that, your technique just became masterfully done. People are going to wonder how you got all those little dots inside your sunflower, and a little texture. Well, I don't know what to call it. Maybe we'll call it the sunflower texture technique, huh? Why not? We're creating this as we go, guys. Remember that spray painting is a new media to the world of art. So there's no techniques out there besides the ones that I'm showing you guys, the ones that we're coming up. Hey, you just see me name that one. Let's see, what else can we talk about? Let's talk about, well, we've talked about different terrains. We've talked about fading. We've talked about the silhouette technique, the dark and light, the tree texture technique. Look at those trees, guys. Tell me that's not going to make your paintings look more realistic. All right. Well, I think for now that'll cover. If you guys have any questions or comments, send me a link or send me a question, email, or just post your comment question below. All right, guys. Hope this has answered a lot of questions. And if you guys have some more, well, definitely let me know. All right, crew. It's been, wow, we're going on 30 minutes. So, yeah, I can think of a couple more techniques I want to show you, but I'll wait until I get my clear coat and a couple other different colors like my orange and my yellow to work. All right. Till next time, guys. Keep those cans shaking.